Hello, and welcome to episode 1.5 of my devlog series. Now, I just moved and I didn't have the internet for the past month. I was quite busy and didn't have a lot of time to make any videos. But I did have a bit of time to work on the game. Now, I'll show you what I've been working on. Not everything has been added to the editor itself, but nonetheless. Over here, I have this resource manager that has all our resources that we loaded in, and last time it didn't really work. It showed you the entities that were loaded, but you can't save any in. Well, now you can. So here there's a path and a name. In the path, it's relative to the executable file, and if I were to open res textures and load in, let's say, iandoor.png here, I copy in that, and then I can name it something such as Ian Door, why not? And I hit add. You'll see that this number here went up. That shows you the amount of elements that are loaded in. And you can see that Ian Door is right here. And if I were to add a decoration, ignore this empty spot here, it's a little bug I'm working on. Here you can name the entities and do everything you were doing before, so I'll just call it iDoor, why not? And as for the sprite, we'll put in Ian Door, the name of that image. Now we don't see it. That's because of the Z here. The game may be 2D, but it has layers, and that's what the Z is for. So I can put it in front of Ian, behind Ian, and in front of the dojo, or behind the dojo. So here you put in the resolution, and then you can change the size. I'm not going to bother to put in the resolution, but you get the gist of what you do. So I can place this somewhere, like here, let's say, and I can go File, Save, and then they'll ask me where I want to save it. I want to save it in res and call it test4.scene. Hit save, and you'll see that here now on the top it says hypergameengine.res/test4.scene. Now if I were to make another change and place it over here this time, do file save, it won't ask me, it'll rewrite over test4. So be aware of that. If you want to save it as something new, you hit save as. If you want to change the scene you're working in, you hit open. So now if you want to test this out, we can close this. You can open it again. It opens this scene by default. Hit open. There's no way to browse your scenes, so I'll perhaps add that later. But for now, you put in the path manually, you hit open, and you can see that it's loaded it in. And remember that that image is also loaded in, though it's loaded in every scene, not just the scene that it's in, as you can see here. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is scriptability. Over here, I have these two interacting areas. If I click on one of them here, you can see that it has a script attached to it. Now the script is really interesting because it can be anything. So if you wanted to, you could make it that when you press this button, it loads the scene, or you can make it that it explodes the world, anything that you want. If I go here, you can see that this start.dogrun.lua file that we're actually executing here contains only one line of code that loads a scene called dogrun. Now, if we were to go to that scene, if I can write it correctly, there we go. If I were to open it, you can see that this scene has another executable here that executes another file called dogrun.lua, and that there's this dog here called woof. So if I go here, dogrun.lua, we can see that there's this big script here. Well, what does the script do? Well, let's find out. If I were to execute the game normally and click this, you'll see that it loads a scene and it shows you what the name of that scene is. This is all work in progress. That's why I'm not going to talk too much about it, but nonetheless, here also this hologram is where Ian is going to move to after you click on this interacting area, and he'll even face that direction. So if I click on it here, Ian goes there automatically, faces that direction and clicks. And now that I click, if I press WASD, you can see that this dog starts to move in a really silly fashion. All of this, including its velocity here, where it slides around, has been programmed with the script. So none of that existed before the script. And here, I'll show you a little example. The code is gonna change here and there as I work on it. But here, I have a variable called dog that's not equal to anything. It's equal to nil. And this function reaction, which is executed when Ian performs of that little animation after you click, is executed after that. Everything here is executed. And here, I say that the dog variable is equal to getEntityWoof. So what that does is it looks for an entity called woof, which if we remember, in the debug mode, we have, in the dog run scene, an entity called woof, which is the dog. So all of that code was executed to this dog here. But what if I wanted to, I don't know, apply it to Ian? Well, Ian is called Ian, all not caps. And now, all I did was change that, I saved, and now if I were to re-execute, go to that scene, hit the button, everything seems normal, but now when I press WASD, Ian is the one that walks in a silly fashion, which is quite amusing. So this is work in progress, obviously, but this script was to show at what limit you can go. Now there's no collision, there's no nothing, there's no even collision normally. I'm going to work on that later, but it shows you that the scripts aren't very limited. You could make an entire game if you wanted to, which I have done a bit of over here with this test Pong, which I haven't finished. They're just moving paddles that you can move with W and S and the arrow keys, and the ball bounces around. But it's just to show that you can basically create anything you want, as long as it's not too complicated. It's quite limitless. This could be good for adding mini games to the game, since it's like creating a smaller game within the game, if that makes sense. You could make a guessing game or anything really, and make the elements that you've added to the scene actually move, actually change, and become a game on its own, which I believe Ian appreciates. Nonetheless, this is still work in progress. Here, this is an updating function that updates. It looks complicated, but all of it is ifs and thens. If you're pressing W on your keyboard to increase the Y velocity. I made it a bit more complicated than it have to be, just to show at what point you can go. I mean, I didn't recreate an entire game yet, but it shows still. Now, I called this episode 1.5 because I'm leaving a lot of things out. I just really wanted to get this out as soon as possible. But I'll release another one this Friday, which will be episode 2, where I'll finish up some of the code I've been working on, add it to the editor. Nonetheless, this is pretty much it. You can actually program things. You can set that you press things and it does other things, and there's no collision, not even in the game like normally, but I'll work to it. And also there's this text thing that I added that just fades in and fades out different texts, which is a work in progress. We'll see in the next video. Nonetheless, that's what I've been working on. I hope this video is giving you a bit more insight on the development of this fan game, and I hope to release some interesting news next week. And especially in the next month or so. I have something interesting to show you. Nonetheless, I've said that a bit too often. Anyways, have a good day. I hope to see you next Friday. It'll be really fun. Goodbye.